Okay, we're on page 335. This is chapter 30. I'll pick it up probably in verse 25. I wanted to tell you, I was asked yesterday about Leah and changing the name, calling her daughter Dina, and praying it should be a boy. I was asked, two questions came up. One was, if she was so worried about, well, actually, no, three questions. One question was, after having herself 6 children, why didn't she simply separate from Yaakov so as not to possibly get pregnant and thereby have a problem? I discussed this with my Rebbetzin. See, I realized afterwards that I portrayed it as, well, this is what happened, and then, wow, she got pregnant. What to do now? Oh, it's desperate. If I have another child, then Rachel's going to be short, so I'll daven. My Rebbetzin said, maybe she knew she could daven. I don't know. And why shouldn't she have a girl? Why shouldn't she continue to have children and have girls? So she said, listen, if I become pregnant, then I'll daven, should change to a girl. She was confident she could do that. That would be one reason why she shouldn't have to stop. Right, and that would apply even beforehand. I said, the Gemara records ways to prevent pregnancy. Why didn't she use those? So the Rebbe said, maybe she did, and it failed. All these ways of preventing pregnancy are not 100%. The coil, the women are known to say, "This is my coil, baby." This is a baby I had when I was using the coil, and it didn't work. So okay, but the questions were good questions, and I think we have answers for them now. Okay, so now Rachel gives birth, and we mentioned yesterday, Yaakov says to Lavan, give me my grab me a lead and go home to my place, my land. I want to go home. Give me my wives. When he said, give me my wives, is really not a consistent way to talk. If they're mine, you don't say give. I don't say give them to me. But he means they're mine by right, but I know that you may have objections of various kinds. I don't want you to raise objections. Therefore, I've worked for you, and I will go. You're aware of my work, that I worked for you. Now, that's a little bit redundant, but he means not only that I worked at 14 years, but the quality of my work. And as we will see later in the final confrontation with Lavan, where Yaakov finally speaks out his position in great detail, that he behaved far and above the normal responsibilities of a shepherd of someone else's flocks. So he says, you know very well, I fulfilled the 14 years, and I gave you service above and beyond anything that you could. So you can't have any reason to object to my wanting to go. In English. Lavan said to him, if I have found favor in your eyes, I've learned by divination that Hashem has blessed me on account of you. So, the question is, what did he see, and he's learned it by divination. that's some kind of magical process that they have. Now, if Jacob was just a superb shepherd, and he took care of the flocks in a very either faithful fashion or a very intelligent fashion, he had been a shepherd by his father in the land of Canaan for many years. Why would it be required divination? No, the flocks can be treated better or worse, so on and so on. So that's why Rashi's not satisfied with that. Look at 27. He was a diviner. Lavan said to Yaakov, I've probed my divination and found that it was through you the blessing came to me. Now, how did that happen? 4. When you came here, I had no sons. Do we know that Lavan had no sons? Well, how about the fact that Rachel was the shepherdess? Is that the thing that you would normally assign a girl to do? Maybe drawing water from the well, that's close to home, and there are family members who can observe and supervise, and so on and so on. But you send her out to the fields, out to the pastures, all by herself. If he had had sons, he would not have sent her out. And that's a good indication that he had no sons. As it says, and see, his daughter Rachel was coming with the flock. Is it possible that he would have sons, and he would send his daughter with the shepherds? And you notice what the problem is. The problem is that as a shepherd, she's going to be interacting with other shepherds, or men. And that's not what you expose your daughter to. Thank you very much. And now, he had sons, because, as it will say a little bit later, Jacob heard the words of Lavan's sons. So the verses themselves tell me that at the beginning he didn't have a son, and afterwards he had sons. So that's a transition we know from. It's hinted at in the verses, but it's clear. It's not stated word for word, but it's hinted at very clearly. And that's where the divination was from, not from what happened with the flocks. But I see that you're a source of blessing for me. So I'm asking you to stay. And Jacob said to him, I'm sorry. And now, so we're up to 20. I should take my other glasses. 28. And he said, specify your wage to me and I will give it. 27, the speaker was Lavan. And 28, the speaker is? Lavan. He's the one who's offering to pay a wage, right? So it's two speeches by the same person.
Also says and he said, no? Then wouldn't that imply?
I'm sorry, say again?
Here also it says and he said, but he refers to Lavan.
No, 27 says, Lavan said to him. And 28 says, and he said. Who's the he?
Oh, I guess I see what you're saying.
It could have been a conversation, right?
Yeah, I assumed, yeah.
Could have been back and forth. Okay, but it's Lavan's. But then if it's the same person speaking, why does it repeat, and he said? This is very typical for biblical style. It means there was a break. It wasn't one run-on sentence. After all, 27, Lavan makes an announcement. If I found favor in your eyes means I want a favor. I want you to do something for me. I've learned that by divination, he's waiting for a response. Okay, happy to please you, tell me what you want. Nothing. Jacob's sitting there silent. He's waiting for Jacob to respond. And Jacob doesn't respond. So he says, I want you to stay. Specify your wage to me, and I will give it to you. Okay, I suppose you want to be paid. Lavan thinks in terms of money. We've seen that already. He's So now, but he said to him, who's the he now? Yeah, it's Jacob. So you see the same words are used when switch the speaker. You have to figure it out yourself. You are aware of how I worked for you and what your livestock was with me. For the little that you had before I came has expanded substantially as Hashem blessed you with my coming. And now, when will I also do something for my own house? I've been working for you for 14 years. I'm working as a shepherd. All of the expansion of flocks belongs to you. You saw that I brought blessing to your house by what happened with your sons. I'm telling you that same blessing is what brought the blessing to your flocks. So you've really gained tremendously by my being here. You want me to stay. I have a family, a growing family. I have nothing. When am I going to be able to provide for my own family? So, I want to point out to you in the Hebrew here, Rashi says this, but where he says to him in 28, specify your wage. If you look in the Hebrew, the third line down, the fourth line down, Nokvo sechorcha olai ve'atena. Nokva means to specify, to define precisely. You will, of course, recognize the letters as the same letters as nekeva, which means feminine. This is a deep idea. That's what the feminine principle does. It takes the raw material from a masculine principle, a raw material which could have various different forms, various different applications, various different integrations, and specifies it, gives it a fixed final identity. That's one of the differences between male and female. The male is, so to speak, a provider of a certain energy or a certain raw material, and then the masculine principle does that. And the feminine principle shapes it, forms it, specifies it for the sake of the use that is needed. And here's what use of that I think the Baral says this. Okay. So now listen to what Jacob says. How it continues. And as usual, the paragraph breaks have no relevance to the text. He said, "What shall I give you?" Who's the he? Lavan. He's going to pay, right? Now watch this diuk. And Yaakov said, "Do not give me anything." What's going on here? So, Lavan said, "Name your wages." Jacob says, "I want to provide for my family." Lavan says, "What shall I give you?" Jacob says, "Don't give me anything." And what kind of negotiation is this? So walk away and just leave. What do you mean, don't give me anything? Jacob's objecting to the word give. You don't give wages, you pay wages. Give implies a gift. You're not giving me anything. You're paying me what I earn. You owe it to me. Don't tell me you're giving me something. This is how biblical figures 3,600 years ago paid careful attention to language. This is what I told you with Rav Dester about the king of Sodom, when he says to Abraham, "Give me the people and take the hardware, take the booty." We pointed out those words are inconsistent, because if you're asking for the people, it means you don't have them. It means Abraham has them. You have to ask him to give them to you. So what do you mean, take the booty? Abraham has it already. He has everything already. He conquered the 4 kings. Everything belongs to him. What he should have said is, give me the people and keep the booty for yourself. He says, take the booty. Abraham says, I have nothing to do with you. If you think my keeping it is a taking, if you think I'm depriving you by keeping what I already have, you're not someone I want to deal with. So this is what Yaakov's saying to Lavan. Lavan is like the king of Sodom. Everything's mine. Everything's mine. You work, I don't owe you anything. It's all mine. And if you work and I pay your salary, I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you a gift. And Jacob says, no, absolutely not. Okay. So Jacob goes on to say, if you will do this thing for me, I'll resume pasturing and guarding your flocks. Now comes a long passage about striped animals and speckled animals and dotted animals and dyed animals and different colored animals and so on and so on. This is how you identify what the reward is and what isn't, and how the flocks all give birth to the ones that are supposed to be for Jacob. I'm not going to take you through that. The details are difficult, and I haven't got anything to teach you about it. I have nothing to explain to you about it. But the long and short of it is that he specifies a physical sign, Jacob does, so that the reward that he gets for pasturing the flocks, which is a portion of the flocks themselves, portion of the flocks that get born, will be identified physically so that anybody could see that what he has is his own, not something which he took from Lavan. And then the text goes through a long description of how Jacob used a certain type of environment for reproduction, which would influence what kind of offspring would be born. Now, if you read the text like that, straight through, you say one of two things. Either it's expressing their belief in something like Lamarckian evolution, which we all know is wrong. Well, we all used to know is wrong. It's not wrong anymore. We know Lamarckian evolution does work. In some cases, it definitely works. It's been proven in the laboratory. With amoeba, it definitely works. And there are other cases where there are indications that it works. But then if that's true, he's cheating. He said, all the ones that look like this will be mine. All that look like that are yours. And I'll guarantee they all look like this because I'm going to create an environment which will influence them to look like that. As you will see later on, Jacob is doing this in response to the fact that Lavan was cheating him at every turn. So I'm saying that because the context will show it to us. As I said, I'm not going to go through all the details. And the bottom line is, he goes through this procedure, and the result is that he becomes very wealthy. Now, let's move to chapter 31, which is on page 343. The 43 in the previous, just the previous verse. The man, meaning Jacob, became exceedingly prosperous, and he had proliferating flocks. You know what proliferate means? To multiply. And slave women, and slaves, and camels, and donkeys. He was loaded. Now comes a sequence which, again, is exquisite, how husbands treat wives, which definitely does not fit the stereotype of the history of the ancient Near East. And he heard the words of Lavan's sons. Here, Lavan's sons we spoke about a minute ago. All of a sudden, they're on the page, saying, "Jacob has taken all that belongs to our father, and from that which belongs to our father, he amassed all his wealth." Man, in 6 years, he's gone from zero, like 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. In 6 years, he's gone from zero to immense wealth. Must be that he stole it from our father. So, first of all, Jacob hears his cousins talking. Okay, his cousins, they're kids. No, kids talk. Jacob also heard Lavan's disposition. Notice his disposition. So, not like in these earlier days, his uncle and father-in-law is also exuding certain frustration and irritation. Furthermore, Hashem said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your fathers and to your birthplace, and I'll be with you." Wow. Reasons are piling up for Jacob to exit, to take a powder, to get out of the way. What does he do? His cousins are against him. His uncle and father-in-law is against him. God says to him, go home. What does he do? When those things happen to him, what does he do? Now watch. If you don't know the answer, you'd never dream of what happens. You'd never dream of it. Try it out of people who know history and know literature and see what you get. Jacob sent and summoned Rachel and Leah to the field, to his flock. He wants to talk to them. He wants to be a place where he knows there's no spies, a private meeting. Come out to the flock. And said to them, I've noticed that your father's disposition is not toward me as in earlier days. And the God of my father was with me. Now you have known that with all my might I worked for your father. Yet your father mocked me and changed my wage 10 countings. But God did not permit him to harm me. If he would say, speckled ones shall be your wages, then the entire flock bore speckled ones. And if he would say, ringed ones shall be your wages, then the entire flock bore ringed ones. Thus God took away your father's livestock and gave it to me. It happened at the mating time of the flock. I raised my eyes and I saw in a dream, behold, the he-goats that mounted the flock were ringed, speckled, and striped. And an angel of Hashem said to me in the dream, Jacob, and I said, here I am. And he said, raise your eyes, if you please, and see that all the he-goats mounting the flocks are ringed, speckled, and striped, for I have seen all that Lavan is doing to you. I am God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar, where you vowed a vow to me. Now rise, leave this land, and return to the land of your birth. End of speech. What's the point of this speech? What is he doing? Why is he telling them this history? What are they supposed to do now? Watch how they answer, and you'll see. Then Rachel and Leah replied and said to him, have we still a share and an inheritance in our father's house? Are we not considered by him as strangers? For he has sold us, and he has even totally consumed our money. Rather, all the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. And so now, whatever God has said to you, do. We're going to go through this whole passage in great detail. I want to just point out the end here. The words at the end, that they say at the end, are, I think, astonishing. They're saying to him, as God has told you to do, you should do. Is it up to them? And if they had said no, it would have been no? What's going on here? And they're responding to his speech. They hear his speech, and this is how they respond. So they heard something in the speech that caused this response. Jacob's speech says, I'm in danger here, and I served faithfully, and God has protected me, and God told me to go home. So, I want to go. I want to go. And the implicit question is, what do you think? What's your opinion? How do you see it? What will you do? He's asking them for their response. So they say to him, here's how we see the situation. You're asking about our loyalty to our father? Should we say that you're cheating our father or do something against our father? Or should you say that we can't oppose our father? No, none of that is true. We're strangers. He's treated us like strangers. We don't feel we owe him anything. And we're certainly not going to take his side in this dispute. We believe that the money that you have amassed belongs to you, it belongs to us, it belongs to our children, so we have no complaints. And therefore, we are confirming we agree you should do what God told you to do. We're agreeing with you. Now, if he's asking them, and they say this, it means they could have said, we disagree. Otherwise, if it was a foregone conclusion, the only thing you could say is they agree, he wouldn't have asked them, or they're saying it would be totally redundant. No, they could have said, we disagree. You'll ask, well, if they disagree, what would they do? Let him go. God told him to go. Go. Bye. We'll stay home with our father, with our community, with our country. But I think if you'll ask someone who doesn't know the story and say, here's an incident that took place in the ancient Near East, what would you expect the outcome to be? God tells Jacob to go home, and he's in trouble with his uncle and his cousins. I think they would predict that Jacob will come to Rachel and Sarah and Leah and say, pack up, we're moving out in 2 hours. He does the exact opposite. The exact opposite. He's as respectful as could possibly be imagined. He simply tells them this. And by the way, this in 6 pages, when they have the ultimate confrontation, this is what Lavan accuses him of. He says, you took off my daughters like war captives. Because that's how he thinks. That's how he interprets the world. That's his culture. He couldn't dream of this kind of interaction. It couldn't possibly be more respectful than this. He doesn't even ask them. He just simply says, here's what happened, here's what the situation is. And God told me to go home. I think this is as exquisite an interaction as you could possibly ask for between husband and wife. Okay, you had a question?
It is, yeah. If they would have disagreed, would they disagree in the fact that, as in you should listen to God? Would they be disagreeing in the fact that you shouldn't be bringing us with you?
That's a speculation about them, and I don't know them personally. It's hard for me to say. It is possible to disagree even with what you think God wants from you, because we think we know better what God wants from you. Yeah. So, for example, when God says to Moses, go down to Egypt and be my agent to engineer the exodus of the Jewish people from Egypt, what does he do? He doesn't go to Egypt. He goes to his father-in-law. And he asks permission to go. God didn't tell him to ask permission to go. So was he rebelling? He knows that that's what God wants him to do. You don't just run. You don't run out on your father-in-law. You go to him, you speak to him, and you ask permission. That's the way you do the going to Egypt. You do the going to Egypt by going to your father-in-law and asking permission. That's how you do it. Similarly, when God tells Moses to conquer, I guess it's Sichon, conquer Sichon city, God says, go and attack and conquer. So what does Moses do? He sends messengers offering peace. God didn't tell him to send messengers offering peace, but Moses knows that's how you do it. This is how you conquer a city. First offer them peace and see if they'll accept and make conditions with them. And then if not, then you send the army. So it's possible for them to say, okay, God told you to go home, but how and when and tomorrow or next month, or what kind of negotiation should you do with our father beforehand? And there could be all sorts of conditions that they could put in and say, how it should be done. There are all sorts of openings for them to negotiate one way or the other. The important thing is he doesn't impose himself on them at all, not at all. I can't imagine a more respectful interaction than this. Like a guy who works for IBM and he's in Dallas, and the corporation says, we want you to spend 3 years in Toronto. Toronto, 6 feet of snow in the winter. I'm living in Dallas. Leave me alone. No, IBM wants him in Toronto. So he comes home. What's he going to tell his wife? I think 1 in 10,000 wouldn't deal with his wife this way. It's my career, and we're both living off my salary, and he put pressure on, and so on and so on. And this is absolutely exquisite. Now, I want to show you a little diuk here in what they say. They say, yeah.
In these situations, though, like in the case of Moses, if his father, you say with father-in-law?
Yeah, father-in-law.
If he said no, then there would seem to be an issue, right? Right, what's the purpose? Does he still have to go through with this anyway? And in the case with here, does he still have to go through with something if they would have said no?
Look, you can go and ask for permission. If someone says no, you could say, well, why not? And then when the person gives you the reason, you could argue with his reason. And you could be confident that you will be able to out-argue him. You're still showing him respect and consideration by going and asking.
It's not
Instead of just...
it's not about the permission itself, but rather the act of asking.
That's right. Exactly. It's the act of asking. Right. Now look at what they say here, Rachel and Leah. Look at it's 15. Are we not considered by him as strangers? For he has sold us, and he has even totally consumed our money. What is that? Look at Rashi, 15. Are we not considered by him as strangers, even at a time when it is the practice of people to give a dowry to their daughters at the time of the marriage? He treated us like strangers. For he has sold us to you as wages for the labor that you provided him. And he's even eaten our money, for he withheld the money due for the wages of your labor. In other words, let's compare this with the previous generation. Eliezer comes to find a wife for Avraham, and they negotiate with the family for Rivka. And when the negotiations are finished, what does the servant Eliezer do? He takes out gold and silver and garments and gives them to who? Yeah.
Or family.
Sorry?
Or give them to the not Lavan.
Well, say it in the description. Who are they giving it to? Who did he give it to them?
The family.
Huh?
Like give it to like the family exchange for Leah. Oh wait.
Wait.
That would be,
We're talking, the woman's going to get married as Rivka, right? Okay, he takes out gold and silver and clothes and gives them to Rivka! To the girl! He gives the money to the girl, not to the family. Oh, he didn't forget about the family. The family got papayas and kiwis for a snack. You know, he gave them sweet fruits for a snack. That's very nice. But all the goodies, all the real stuff went to the girl, right? Okay. So now, what happened over here? Jacob offered to work 7 years, right, for the right to marry. Okay. So Lavan saved 7 years' wages. Then he made another one, so he made 14 years' wages, right? Okay. So he saved that money. He got free labor, right? And he used the money. He didn't even give it to them. If you tell me he's saving the money, putting in an escrow account so that when they get married, it can be a dowry, that would be fine. But no, he took the money and he used it. So that's why they say he treated us like a stranger. In our little tiny subculture, you don't do that. That you could do for a sofa or for a slave. You can't do it for your daughters. He's treated us like a stranger. So, couldn't be more explicit than that. Okay, now Yaakov claims that certain things happened to them. They, of course, believe him. The reader of the text, if he's sufficiently corrupt, may say, well, that's only Jacob talking, you know. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But as you'll see in his confrontation with Lavan, even Lavan will agree to it. Even Lavan will admit it. So there's no question that the accounting is true. And that's why they now set out. Okay. Yeah, so now we're up to 17. Jacob arose and he lifted his sons. Now, this is a phrase which I think maybe it's influenced the English also. Does Rashi say it here? I don't remember. No. We say in English, get up and go. Why do we say get up? Are we imagining that you could go without getting up? I don't think so. Get up and go means get moving. You have that in Hebrew also. Vayokam, vayisa. He got up and he went and did this. It means he did it with alacrity. He did it quickly, directly, no delays. He put his sons and his wives on the camels. His sons are young. Led away his livestock, his possessions that he had amassed, acquisitions of his property that he acquired in Padan Aram, to come to his father Isaac to the land of Canaan. Now, how could he do that? He just picked up. He's got a lot of stuff, right? It's got to take a few hours. It's got to be obvious in public. He's trying to run away from Lavan. So how does he manage this? So the Torah tells you. Lavan had gone to shear his sheep. And the Torah tells, in between which I skipped, that in order that there should be no possibility of leakage from one flock to the other flock, Lavan put a 3 days journey between his flocks and the growing flocks of Jacob. So he was 3 days journey away, Lavan was. So Jacob says, if I make a powder today, I've got a 3 days lead on him in making distance. That's quite reasonable. Rachel stole the truffim that belonged to her father. These are certain types of implements for magic. You can think of them as idols or magical implements. She stole them from her father. I'm sorry, stole the ones that belonged to her father. Why do you think she did that? Hey, he's used this for divination. They're pretty good things, pretty good stuff. So, he owes us a lot anyway, and we don't owe him anything, so let's take him along, Who knows, but they could be useful, right? No, that's not the right answer. Look at Rashi. She stole the truffim. She intended to separate her father from idolatry. She doesn't need them. We have no evidence whatsoever that she ever, before or after, engaged in practices of magic. So it would be very peculiar to think that she would want it for that. And I have another riot to it, as we'll get to probably next week. I'll just mention when Lavan comes, he claims you stole it, and he searches the whole house. She hides the truffim in a saddle for a camel, and she sits on the saddle. And when Lavan comes searching, he comes into her tent, he's searching everywhere for his beloved truffim, right? She says, "Excuse me that I can't get up. I'm pregnant and I'm sick. I can't get up before you." And he searches in the whole tent, and then he goes out. So you could ask, he's worried that they're hidden someplace, right? She's sitting on a camel saddle. You're having trouble, my dear. You're not feeling well. I'll bring in 2 of my people and they'll pick you up and move you so I can check the camel saddle. Excuse me, they could be under the camel saddle. Why doesn't he check there? I think the right answer is no one would sit on the truffle. You wouldn't do that. These are powerful entities. They have to be treated with respect. No one's going to sit on them. So he doesn't have to test. That's where they are, actually. But then, if she believed in them, then he'd be right. She wouldn't sit on them.
Why would she hide them then?
Sorry?
Why would she hide them if she believed in them? If the idea was that if she believed in them, she wouldn't sit on them, then also why would she hide them?
Because she wants them. This is the false, right? The false thing was she stole it in order to use them for herself, right? But if she believed in them, she wouldn't sit on them. He's right, and that's why he didn't check. She definitely wouldn't sit on them. So that's another a riot that she meant it not for herself, only separate her father from it. Which means that after saying he treated us like strangers, and after saying that all the money belongs to us and everything else, she still was looking out for his ruchnius, for his spirituality.
Lavan thought that she believed in the Trofim, and therefore she wouldn't have the chutzpah to sit on them.
Again, Rashi says she took the Trofim in order to separate her father from that wrong practice. That was the alternative interpretation, which I'm trying to discredit, is that no, she had no care for her father. She thought they were powerful and she wanted to use them for herself. That's the alternative I'm trying to discredit. Now I'm saying, according to the alternative, that means she stole them to use them for herself. She thinks they really have power, right? Then, when Lavan comes to search for them, and he comes into her tent, and he's searching everywhere, checking everywhere, and she's sitting on a camel saddle. And she says, "Excuse me that I cannot get up. I'm pregnant and I'm sick. I can't get up." He's looking for his stolen items. He's sure that Jacob or someone in his camp stole it, right? He should have said, "My dear, you're sick. It's hard for you to move. I'll get people to pick you up and move you. I have to check the camel saddle. I'm checking everywhere. So it's hard for you to move. I'll get somebody to move you." That's what he should have said. Why didn't he do that? He's checking everywhere. Why didn't he check there? I think the right answer is, you don't sit on these things. They're powerful. They have power. They have to be treated with respect. You wouldn't sit on them. That's why he doesn't search there. Okay, if she shares his opinion, if she agrees with him, they're powerful, they can do things, she wouldn't have sat on them. She wouldn't have done that. So, if that's the case, it must be, since she did sit on them, she doesn't believe they have power. So that's a further proof to what Rashi says, that she stole them in order to separate her father from the practice, not because she wanted to use it. That's what I'm saying. Is it clear now? Yeah.
So I'm not sure if this would contradict that, whether she believed that they would have power, but because in the end, Lavan did end up finding them along the way. But could another explanation be that she took them so that Lavan would be like delayed in finding them, since we do say that these are like used for, I guess, divination or something?
Wait a minute. What do you mean he found them along the way? I don't know what you mean.
Oh, I mean, like even without the these like tools, they ended up like catching up with him. But did she take him away from him so that he would be further delayed, since he's used for divination and everything?
Some of the pronouns. He caught up with Jacob and the company.
Yeah.
He didn't find the Trofim on the way.
Oh no, I'm talking
He came out. He got okay. Well, let's see.
Because like if he had him, if he would have caught up with him sooner, maybe.
No. Just let me fill in the logic here, because I'm getting perhaps I'm getting a little mixed up. Hold on 1 second. You mean to say there's a third possibility, one that I haven't mentioned? It's possible that she could believe they have power, and yet she could steal them, not to use the power that they have, but for a different reason, and that is that he shouldn't have the power that they have, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so I suppose it's theoretically possible. But I think it's quite unlikely. After all, Jacob 6 years ago said, "I want to go home." 6 years ago, right? And now he's been there 6 extra years, and now he's disappeared. Is he going to, see the beaches in Acapulco? I mean, where is he going? He's going home, right? So I don't even have to worry about where is he going, which way is he going by way of Alaska. I mean, he's going home. So I think he would know that right away. He wouldn't have to use any divination to and in fact, he did know it, right? Because he came chasing after him without the truffle, and he did fine. He wasn't delayed at all. So I think she could anticipate that, and that wouldn't be a good, reasonable motivation. Yeah.
The Rashi critiques his position, like you were saying. Is there a view that she did take them for the purposes of idol worship, or to use them herself?
No, I don't think so. But I suppose she could have said, "I'll sell them, and that way, get more money for my children." I mean, they both did say, Rachel and Leah, they both said, all the money that you got for him belongs to us and our children. There's something else. But then why should she steal just that?
Well, there has to be a view there, right? I imagine if we were saying that Lavan thinks that she's stealing it because she.
No, he didn't think that she's stealing it. He checked everything, every tent and every place where they were, all the servants. He checked everything, the whole camp. Just that she was one of the places that he went into.
So he didn't have suspicions, you're saying, of her.
No.
It's still kind of, why would he check her quarters?
Why not?
Why would it end up there? I guess if he was saying he must have left it there then, or.
No. Again, somebody in this camp stole. It could be Rachel, it could be Rachel, could be Leah, could be Yaakov himself, could be one of the many servants, could be Yaakov's children, could be any one of them. And that's suspecting her more than anybody else.
She's under suspicion, as if everyone else is under suspicion as well.
Right.
That's why she's checking. So the idea is that he would have assumed that she wouldn't sit on the idol still. Assuming even if she under suspicion, she wouldn't do that.
That's right.
And so there's a position. Okay, I'm just okay. I was wondering. So is there any view then? Okay, that's actually never mind.
Right.
I didn't say.
He can't imagine that someone would sit on truffle. And the idea that other people might feel differently, and it's not part of his world. He lives in his own world. Yeah.
Why did she wait till now when they were leaving to take the truffle? Why didn't she do it earlier?
She could be caught.
So she could just sit on it. Say she was pregnant.
Listen, let's say she stole it 9 years before. She wasn't even married. And then say, okay, so I'll call you back tomorrow when you feel better. When she goes out to the flocks with or goes to the fields to do agriculture and so forth and so on. He'll see. I mean, you can't keep it up over a long period of time. I say how it's going to help.
Destroyed it though, maybe.
Yeah, how come she didn't just get rid of the truffle? Why did she keep them in the first place?
Well, the truth is, that's an interesting question. Why don't you just get rid of them? Destroy them might be hard. I don't know what they're made out of. Maybe they're made out of metal.
But throwing like a random, she could have gotten rid of them.
I mean, what difference would it make?
Unless she's afraid to be discovered that she's the one that stole them. She'd have to do it in private when nobody was looking. If you had a big camp of people, it'd be quite difficult to do that.
With that,
What's that?
probably would have been easier just to get rid of them. She could have snuck off in 2 seconds, like buried them somewhere along the road.
I mean, she was pregnant. She was pregnant. She gave birth to Binyamin, came into the land, and she died. So she was in late pregnancy. So that makes it a little awkward to, taking a stroll by yourself off into the road. Right? She's not a 16-year-old girl, who can slip around and do what she wants. Yeah.
So, and also, as I understand it, somewhere in here it said that she was hiding it from Jacob too. So she not only would have to obscure it from Lavan, she would have to obscure it from her own, tribe as well. And she was hiding this from everybody, because later Jacob says, I don't know where it is or whatever, and that's not a lie on his part, because he just didn't know that Rachel had taken it.
It's more than that. What he says, I've got to go.
Okay.
Wait, he says more than that. He says, when Lavan says to him that you stole my truffle, he says, with whomever you'll find it shall die. So he definitely doesn't know they're there.
So it's,
Right.
she has, yeah, she doesn't have much
She definitely kept it secret from everybody. Right. Okay, we'll pick it up.